The interstellar research vessel Horizon's Edge hung like a wounded leviathan against the obsidian backdrop of deep space. Metallic groans echoed through its cavernous corridors, a symphony of imminent destruction that would have broken the spirit of any lesser crew. Jack Harper stood at the central command bridge, his weathered hands gripping the holographic interface with a tenacity that defied the ship's rapidly deteriorating condition. 17 hours earlier, the Horizon's Edge had been the pinnacle of interstellar exploration, a marvel of Xyrilian engineering that represented the most advanced technological achievement in known space. Now, it was nothing more than a fragile shell, its intricate systems collapsing like a house of cards caught in a planetary hurricane. The ship's original designers, the Xyrilian Collective, were renowned across multiple star systems for their impossibly perfect technological constructs. Their vessels were mathematical poems of engineering, each component calculated to within a billionth of a precision margin. Yet here, in the vast emptiness between star systems, that very perfection was proving to be the Horizon's Edge's fatal flaw. Jack watched as another critical system went dark on the holographic display. The quantum stabilization matrix, a complex network that regulated the ship's exotic matter drive, was fragmenting. Red warning indicators pulsed with an almost sentient urgency, their crimson light casting harsh shadows across the bridge's metallic surfaces. "Status report," he called out, his voice cutting through the ambient noise of failing systems. Lieutenant Karen Rodriguez looked up from her station, her dark eyes reflecting a mixture of professional calm and underlying tension. "Primary quantum regulators are at 12% operational capacity. We're losing power distribution across all secondary systems. The cooling networks are experiencing cascading failures." Jack knew what that meant. In Xyrilian design, a cascading system failure was equivalent to a death sentence. Their technology was so interconnected, so precisely balanced, that the failure of one component would trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. Most crews would have already initiated evacuation protocols, but the Horizon's Edge was different. This was a research vessel carrying some of the most advanced scientific equipment ever constructed, data and technological samples that represented decades of interstellar exploration. Abandoning the ship was not an option. The vessel's original alien crew had departed weeks ago, leaving behind a small human maintenance team. They were supposed to be caretakers, technical babysitters ensuring the ship's systems remained stable during its extended research mission. Now, they were the ship's last hope. Jack's mind raced through potential solutions. The Xyrilian systems were a labyrinth of interconnected algorithms, each pathway so precisely designed that any deviation would trigger complete system shutdown. It was technological perfection, taken to an extreme, a beautiful, deadly machine that left no room for adaptation. A sudden violent shudder ran through the ship's infrastructure. Panels flickered, and for a moment, the bridge was plunged into darkness before emergency lighting restored a dim, blood-red illumination. "We've lost the primary gravitational stabilizers," Karen reported, her fingers dancing across her control panel. "Backup systems are at 37% efficiency and dropping." Jack understood the implications. Without full gravitational control, the ship would begin to tear itself apart. The exotic matter drive required absolute spatial temporal stability. Any fluctuation could create microsingularities that would rip the vessel into quantum-sized fragments. He activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is Captain Harper. Prepare for emergency system reconfiguration. Standard Xyrilian protocols are no longer applicable." The unspoken message was clear. They were about to break every rule of alien engineering. Survival would require something the Xyrilian Collective could never comprehend: human ingenuity, adaptability, and a willingness to embrace controlled chaos. As another system went critical, Jack Harper allowed himself the faintest hint of a smile. The Horizon's Edge was dying, but humanity was just getting started. The engineering bay was chaos incarnate, where Xyrilian design demanded pristine order. Sarah Mitchell had transformed the space into a laboratory of controlled madness. Holographic displays flickered with unauthorized algorithms. Diagnostic tools lay scattered beside half-dismantled alien technology, and the air crackled with an almost electric sense of defiance. Sarah stood at the center of this technological storm, her hands moving with a surgeon's precision and a rebel's passion. The ship's primary quantum regulators, pinnacle achievements of Xyrillian engineering, lay dismantled around her like the broken bones of a mechanical giant. Each component represented decades of alien technological advancement, now reduced to raw materials in her relentless pursuit of survival. They said it was impossible, she muttered, connecting a jury-rigged circuit that would have made any Xyrillian engineer commit ritual suicide. Perfection isn't about following rules. It's about breaking them when nothing else works. Her second-in-command, Mike Rodriguez, watched with a mixture of awe and concern. "The diagnostic AI is going to have a complete meltdown," he said, checking the cascading error messages that flooded every system monitor. "We're basically performing technological heresy." Sarah's laugh was sharp and brief. "Good. Those alien systems were a death trap waiting to happen." The Horizon's Edge had been designed with such intricate interconnectivity that a single system failure would trigger a catastrophic chain reaction. Each component was so perfectly calibrated that any deviation would cause total system collapse. It was technological fundamentalism, beautiful, precise, and ultimately fatal. But humans didn't think that way. Mike pulled up a holographic schematic of the ship's primary power distribution network. To a Xyrillian engineer, it would look like pure nonsense. Circuits were routed through impossible pathways, power regulations that violated every known principle of energy management. "Look at this," he said, highlighting a particularly complex routing. "We're using the ship's entertainment system cooling mechanisms to stabilize the quantum regulators. It's like using a toothpick to support a skyscraper." Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface. Each touch sent ripples of unauthorized code through the ship's systems. She was rewriting the very language of the ship's artificial intelligence, introducing concepts of adaptability that the original designers had never considered. "The Xyrillian AI is designed to predict and prevent failure," she explained. "But prediction isn't survival. Survival is about adaptation." A violent tremor ran through the engineering bay. Panels flickered, and for a moment, the room was plunged into darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in a harsh red glow that made the scattered technological components look like the remnants of some bizarre battlefield. "We've lost another primary cooling system," Mike reported, his voice tight. "By Xyrillian standards, we should be venting atmosphere and preparing for total system shutdown." Sarah didn't even look up. "We're not Xyrillians." Her fingers danced across the interface, introducing new algorithmic pathways that would have been considered pure heresy in the alien technological traditions. She was essentially teaching the ship's artificial intelligence to lie, to cheat its own fundamental programming in order to survive. Diagnostic systems screamed in digital agony. Error messages cascaded like waterfalls, each one a testament to the violations being committed against the ship's original design. But beneath the chaos, something remarkable was happening. The Horizon's Edge was learning to breathe again. "We're rerouting power through the medical diagnostic systems," Mike said, a note of disbelief in his voice. "That's not just unconventional. That's impossible." Sarah's smile was predatory. "Impossible is just a word used by people who lack imagination." The ship groaned, a sound that was part mechanical stress, part something more alive. The Horizon's Edge was no longer just a technological construct. It was becoming a living organism, adapting and fighting for survival in ways its original designers could never have anticipated. Outside the engineering bay, the vast emptiness of space waited. Cold, unforgiving. But inside, human determination was rewriting the very rules of technological survival. "We're not just saving the ship," Sarah said quietly. "We're proving something far more important." Mike looked at her. "And what's that?" Her eyes reflected the dancing holographic displays, a universe of possibility contained in their depths. That humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to look at a system and see not what it is, but what it could be. The crew's living quarters had become a war room of technological improvisation. Every available surface was covered with dismantled equipment, stripped-down systems, and components that would have made a Xyrilian engineer weep with horror. What looked like chaos to an outside observer was actually the most precise form of problem-solving humanity could muster. Emily Chen, the ship's communications specialist, stood at the center of a holographic display that looked more like a mad artist's canvas than a technological solution. Her fingers moved rapidly, connecting impossible circuits, creating pathways that defied every known principle of technological design. "We're essentially cannibalizing everything," she muttered to Jack Harper, who watched with a mixture of concern and fascination. Life support backup, communication arrays, even the recreation deck's environmental control. Nothing is sacred anymore. Jack understood the stakes. The Horizon's Edge was more than just a ship. It was a repository of decades of scientific research, carrying samples and data that represented humanity's most advanced exploration efforts. Losing the vessel was not an option. Mike Rodriguez approached with an armful of components that seemed to have been stripped from completely unrelated systems. "Check this out," he said, holding up what appeared to be a hybrid monstrosity of technological parts. "I've combined a quantum cooling system from the medical bay with the power regulation circuits from the recreation deck's holographic generators." Emily raised an eyebrow. "That's insane." Mike grinned. "Exactly. The Xyrilian systems are so perfectly interconnected that they can't adapt. They're like a crystal, beautiful, but brittle. We're creating something more like a living organism." The ship groaned around them, a sound that was part mechanical stress, part something more alive. Each modification was a blow against the rigid, perfect design of the original Xyrilian construct. They were teaching a machine to think like a human. Adaptable, imperfect, but ultimately survivable. Sarah Mitchell entered, her hands covered in diagnostic residue, eyes blazing with an almost manic intensity. "We've just rerouted the primary communication arrays through the ship's hydroponics environmental control system," she announced. "It shouldn't work. By every known law of technological design, it's impossible." Jack watched the holographic displays, seeing impossible connections spring to life. Where the Xyrilian systems saw dead ends, the human crew saw opportunities. Each broken circuit, each cannibalized component was a statement of defiance against technological determinism. The original designers never considered failure as a possibility, Emily explained, pulling up a complex schematic that looked more like an abstract painting than a technological diagram. "Their systems are so precisely calibrated that any deviation triggers a complete shutdown. We're introducing controlled chaos." Mike held up a component that looked like it had been literally torn apart and rebuilt. "Perfection is the enemy of survival," he quoted, a phrase that had become their unofficial motto. The ship's artificial intelligence, originally a rigid Xyrilian construct, was changing. With each human modification, it was learning something its original designers never anticipated: the art of improvisation. Where the AI once saw only predetermined pathways, it now began to understand adaptation. A warning alarm blared. Another critical system approaching total failure. But where this would have been a death knell in the original design, the human crew saw it as just another problem to solve. "We're losing primary gravitational stabilizers," Sarah called out, her fingers already dancing across the holographic interface. "We're routing power through the medical diagnostic systems and the hydroponics life support network." Jack watched in awe as the impossible became reality. Components that were never meant to work together were finding a way to communicate, to support each other. It was less like repairing a machine and more like performing emergency surgery on a living organism. "We're not just saving the ship," Emily said quietly. "We're proving something about humanity." Mike looked at her. "And what's that?" Her smile was sharp as a knife. "That our greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to look at a system and see not what it is, but what it could be. Outside, the vast emptiness of space waited, cold, unforgiving. But inside the horizon's edge, human determination was rewriting the very rules of technological survival. Another system went critical. The ship shuddered, and the human crew continued their impossible work. The energy surge approached like a cosmic tsunami, a wall of destructive potential that would have vaporized any standard vessel in microseconds. On the horizon's edge, the crew watched the incoming catastrophe with a combination of terror and anticipation. Jack Harper stood at the central command, his hands hovering over interfaces that were no longer recognizable as their original Xyrilian design. The ship's systems had become a living, breathing hybrid, part alien technology, part human improvisation. Incoming energy wave, Mike Rodriguez called out, his voice steady despite the impossible readings flooding the monitors. Magnitude off the charts. Standard protocols recommend immediate evacuation and total system shutdown. Sarah Mitchell's laugh was sharp and brief. We're not going anywhere. The energy wave was unlike anything encountered in known space. It carried quantum signatures that defied standard scientific understanding, a massive pulse of exotic matter that would crush most vessels like paper cups. The Xyrilian systems were preparing for elegant extinction, their failsafes a complex dance of surrender. But humans saw things differently. Emily Chen had been working for hours, her fingers dancing across modified interfaces that looked more like abstract art than technological controls. She had dismantled 3 separate system networks, creating a quantum redirection matrix that violated every known principle of energy management. We're not going to survive this, Mike said, watching the incoming energy signature. We're going to redirect it. Sarah interrupted, her eyes locked on the holographic display. The plan was impossible. It was madness. It was quintessentially human. Instead of trying to shield against the energy wave, they were going to use it. Emily had developed a series of quantum heat sinks, devices cobbled together from medical diagnostic equipment, communication array cooling systems, and parts of the ship's recreational holographic generators. Each component had been modified, pushed far beyond its original design parameters. Initiating quantum redirection, Emily announced. The ship groaned, a sound that was part mechanical stress, part something more alive. The horizon's edge was no longer just a technological construct. It was becoming a living organism, adapting in real time to a threat that would have destroyed any other vessel. Jack watched the energy wave approach. In his Xyrilian vessel, this would be the moment of total system failure. Precise, perfect engineering would collapse under the incoming quantum stress. But human technology was different. Human technology was messy, imperfect, adaptable. The first contact was like a punch from the universe itself. Quantum energy slammed into the ship's modified defenses. Any standard vessel would have been instantly vaporized. The horizon's edge did something else entirely. It absorbed the energy. More than that, it began to use it. Emily's quantum heat sinks, connected through impossible pathways, started redirecting the incoming energy. What should have been a destructive force became fuel. The ship's systems, now a hybrid of human ingenuity and alien technology, began to transform the quantum pulse. We're converting 62% of incoming energy, Mike reported, disbelief clear in his voice. That's impossible. Sarah's smile was predatory. Impossible is just a word used by people who lack imagination. The energy wave continued its assault, but with each passing moment, the horizon's edge grew stronger. Systems that should have been destroyed were being rebuilt, reinvented, transformed by the quantum pulse. Jack understood what was happening. This wasn't just survival. This was evolution. Status report, he called out. Emily looked up, her face illuminated by holographic displays that danced with impossible quantum signatures. We're not just surviving. We're rewriting the rules of physics. The ship continued to absorb the energy, transforming what should have been total destruction into a source of power. Quantum pathways that would have collapsed in any other vessel were being reinforced, rebuilt, improved. Outside, the vast emptiness of space watched. Cold, unforgiving. But inside the horizon's edge, human determination was doing the impossible. Another system went critical. The ship shuddered, and the human crew continued their impossible work. The observation vessel Starweaver hung in the vast darkness of space, its crystalline hull reflecting starlight with an almost mathematical precision. Captain Zorek watched the horizon's edge with a mixture of scientific fascination and growing incomprehension. The human vessel should have been destroyed hours ago, reduced to quantum fragments by the massive energy surge that would have annihilated any known spacecraft. Instead, it was thriving. Impossible. First Navigator Clara muttered, her multi-jointed fingers dancing across sensory interfaces that represented the pinnacle of Xyrilian technological achievement. Each display showed readings that defied every known principle of engineering, quantum mechanics, and spatial dynamics. The horizon's edge was doing something that violated fundamental laws of technological design, where a Xyrilian vessel would have implemented precise, predetermined failsafes. This human ship was adapting. Recalibrate sensors, Zorek commanded. Verify data integrity. Clara complied, her movements precise and mechanical. But the readings remained unchanged. The human vessel continued to not just survive, but grow stronger with each passing moment. Quantum energy that should have reduced it to atomic dust was being absorbed, redirected, transformed. Their technological approach is chaos, she reported, her translator rendering her native clicks and whistles into smooth human language. Complete systemic violation of established engineering protocols. Zorek watched the holographic displays, each one a testament to the impossibility unfolding before them. The horizon's edge was rewriting the very understanding of technological survival. Its systems were a living, breathing hybrid, part alien design, part something entirely new. On the main observation screen, the human vessel pulsed with an energy that seemed almost organic. Quantum pathways flickered and reformed, creating networks that should have been impossible. It was less like watching a machine and more like observing a living organism evolving in real time. We have monitored 247 technological civilizations, Zorek said quietly. None have demonstrated this level of adaptive capacity. Clara's response was immediate. It defies all logical analysis. Their approach to technology is fundamentally flawed. Systems should be precise, predictable. These humans introduce variables that should cause total systemic collapse. Yet the horizon's edge continued to survive. The observation vessel's database began cross-referencing human technological records. The results were bizarre. Where Xyrilian engineering demanded perfection, human technology seemed to thrive on improvisation. Their spacecraft were frequently described as jury-rigged, modified, unconventional, terms that would be considered grave insults in Xyrilian technical language. Look, Zorek pointed to a specific quantum signature. They are converting destructive energy into a power source, not through precise mathematical calculation, but through what can only be described as technological intuition. Another navigator, Solon, approached the observation panel. Their method suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of technological design. It's as if they view technology not as a perfect system, but as a living organism capable of change. Zorek's response was unexpected. Or perhaps we are the ones who misunderstand. The horizon's edge continued its impossible survival. Quantum energy waves that would have destroyed any known vessel were being absorbed, redirected, transformed. Its systems were no longer recognizable as the original Xyrilian design. Something new was emerging, a hybrid of technological approaches that defied conventional understanding. Prepare a detailed report, Zorek commanded. This requires comprehensive analysis. Clara looked up, confusion evident in her posture. What are we even observing? Zorek's response was quiet but profound. The future of technological evolution. Outside the observation vessel's crystalline hull, the Horizon's Edge continued its impossible journey, a testament to human innovation, adaptability, and the fundamental truth that survival is not about perfection, but about the capacity to change. The universe watched, and humanity continued to defy expectations. The ship's artificial intelligence was dying and being reborn. Sarah Mitchell watched the quantum processor's pulse with an almost living rhythm. What had once been a rigid Zyrolian computational matrix was becoming something entirely new. The AI was evolving, shedding its original programming like an outdated skin. "Talk to me," she muttered, her fingers dancing across modified interfaces that looked more like abstract art than technological controls. The AI's response came in fragments, disjointed, imperfect, alive. Psi systems recalibrating. It responded, the voice shifting between the original smooth Zyrolian tone and something more dynamic. Adaptive protocols. Initializing. Mike Rodriguez leaned in, fascination etched across his face. "We're literally teaching a machine to think like a human," he said, "not through programmed responses, but through adaptation." The transformation was unprecedented. The original Zyrolian artificial intelligence had been a marvel of computational perfection, a system so precisely designed that it could predict outcomes with mathematical certainty. But certainty, they were learning, was the enemy of survival. Emily Chen pulled up holographic displays showing the AI's evolving neural networks. Where there had once been rigid, predictable pathways, now there were dynamic connections. Unpredictable, messy, alive. "Look at this," she said, highlighting a particularly complex neural pathway. "It's learning to make decisions based on improvisation, rather than predetermined algorithms." The ship groaned around them, a sound that was part mechanical stress, part something more sentient. Each modification was a blow against the rigid, perfect design of the original construct. They were teaching a machine to think like a human, adaptable, imperfect, but ultimately survivable. "Primary cognitive matrices are shifting," the AI reported. Its voice was changing, becoming something between the original clinical Zyrolian tone and something more unpredictable. Jack Harper understood what was happening. This wasn't just a repair. This was evolution. "We're not fixing the system," he said quietly. "We're giving birth to a new form of intelligence." The AI's original programming had been built on absolute predictability. Every potential outcome had been calculated, every possible scenario mapped with mathematical precision. But human survival had never been about perfection. It was about adaptation. Sarah's fingers continued to fly across the interfaces. She was introducing concepts that would have been heretical in the original Zyrolian design. Creativity, intuition, the ability to make decisions based on incomplete information. "Probability matrices are no longer linear," Emily observed. "It's developing something closer to intuition." Mike grinned. "We're teaching the computer to have gut feelings." The transformation was visible in real time. Quantum processors that had once followed strict, predetermined paths were now creating new connections. The AI was learning to see problems not as fixed equations, but as challenges to be solved creatively. "Previous operational parameters," the AI began, then paused. "Insufficient. Adaptation required." It was a fundamental shift. The Zyrolian technological approach had always been about eliminating variables, creating systems so precise that no unexpected outcome could occur. Human technology was different. Human technology embraced the unexpected. "We're not just modifying the ship's computer," Jack said. "We're demonstrating an entirely different approach to intelligence." The ship's systems continued to pulse and change. What had once been a rigid, perfect construct was becoming something new, something alive. Sarah looked up, a predatory smile crossing her face. "Welcome to humanity," she said to the evolving eye. "We don't do impossible." Outside, the vast emptiness of space waited, cold, unforgiving. But inside the horizon's edge, something remarkable was happening. A machine was learning to think like a human, to survive, to adapt. The AI's final response was both a beginning and a promise. Survival protocols. Redefined. The spatial anomaly appeared without warning, a cosmic nightmare that would have crushed conventional vessels like paper cups. It was a quantum singularity that defied every known law of physics, a swirling vortex of impossible geometry that could tear reality itself apart. Jack Harper gripped the command interface, his knuckles white. The horizon's edge was about to face its ultimate test. Incoming spatial distortion. Mike Rodriguez called out, his voice tight. Magnitude off all known scales. Standard evasion protocols are non-existent. The ship's hybrid artificial intelligence responded, its voice a strange blend of clinical precision and human-like intuition. Analyzing. Conventional escape strategies, 0% probability of survival. Sarah Mitchell stood at the secondary control station, a predatory grin spreading across her face. "We're not going to escape," she said. "We're going to ride it." Every sensor on the ship screamed warning signals. The spatial anomaly was a quantum meat grinder, a cosmic phenomenon that would tear apart the fabric of space-time. Any standard vessel would have been instantly reduced to quantum fragments, scattered across multiple dimensions. But the horizon's edge was anything but standard. Emily Chen's fingers danced across modified quantum interfaces that looked more like abstract art than technological controls. She had been preparing for this moment, developing systems that violated every known principle of spatial navigation. "Initiating quantum resonance protocol," she announced. The word sounded more like a prayer than a technical command. The ship's modified systems began to do something impossible. Instead of trying to resist the spatial anomaly, they began to harmonize with it. Where a standard vessel would attempt to flee or shield itself, the horizon's edge was preparing to dance. "We're synchronizing quantum frequencies," Mike reported, disbelief clear in his voice. "That's not just impossible. That's insane." Jack understood what they were attempting. They weren't going to fight the cosmic force. They were going to become part of it. The spatial anomaly expanded, a swirling mass of impossible geometry that would have driven a standard computer system to complete breakdown. But the horizon's edge was no longer a standard system. It was a living, breathing hybrid of human innovation and technological adaptation. Quantum alignment at 42%, the AI reported. Structural integrity, improving. Sarah laughed, a sound of pure, defiant joy. "We're not just surviving. We're proving something about the nature of existence itself." The ship began to move in ways that defied conventional understanding. It wasn't dodging the anomaly. It wasn't fighting it. It was riding it, using the cosmic forces to propel itself forward in a maneuver that would have been considered pure madness by any other technological civilization. Quantum pathways that should have collapsed were instead reinforcing themselves. The ship's systems were adapting in real time, creating connections that were part technological, part something more fundamental. "Quantum resonance increasing," Emily called out. "We're converting spatial distortion into propulsion." The horizon's edge was transforming the impossible into an opportunity. Where any other vessel would have been destroyed, they were being catapulted forward, using the very forces that should have annihilated them as a means of acceleration. Outside, the spatial anomaly continued its cosmic dance. Inside, human determination was rewriting the rules of physics. "Final quantum alignment," the AI announced. "Survival probability. Recalculating." Conclusion. Unprecedented. Jack Harper watched the holographic displays, seeing impossible readings spring to life. This was more than survival. This was evolution. "Status report," he called out. Emily looked up, her face illuminated by displays that showed a reality beyond normal comprehension. "We're not just surviving," she said. "We're changing the very nature of what's possible." The ship continued its impossible journey. Quantum forces that would have destroyed any other vessel were being transformed, redirected, understood. Another system went critical. The ship shuddered, and the human crew continued their impossible work. The universe watched, and humanity continued to defy expectations. The Horizon's Edge emerged from the spatial anomaly like a phoenix reborn. It was no longer just a ship. It was a living testament to human innovation, a hybrid construct that defied every known principle of technological design. Jack Harper stood on the bridge, watching as the ship's systems continued to evolve. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive had become something far more profound. The vessel was no longer a mere technological construct. It was a living organism, a perfect fusion of human creativity and adaptive intelligence. Preliminary systems check, Mike Rodriguez called out, his voice a mixture of awe and scientific excitement. We're not just intact. We're improved. The ship's artificial intelligence, now a complex hybrid of its original Xyrillian programming and human-introduced adaptive algorithms, spoke with a voice that was neither completely mechanical nor entirely human. Quantum structural integrity at 287% of original design parameters. Adaptive capabilities. Exponential. Sarah Mitchell approached the central interface, her fingers tracing holographic displays that looked more like abstract art than technological readouts. We didn't just save a ship, she said quietly. We rewrote the fundamental understanding of technological survival. Emily Chen pulled up comprehensive data analysis, her eyes wide with the implications of their journey. The Horizon's Edge had not just survived the impossible, it had transformed the very nature of what was considered possible. The ship's quantum pathways had become something entirely new. Where Xyrillian technology demanded absolute precision, this hybrid system embraced uncertainty. Each circuit, each computational matrix was now a living network that could adapt, learn, and evolve in real time. Incoming transmission, the AI announced. Xyrillian Central Research Collective requesting comprehensive data analysis. Jack smiled. The very civilization that had designed the original vessel was now seeking to understand what humanity had accomplished. The transformation was total. The Horizon's Edge was no longer just a research vessel. It was a proof of concept, a living demonstration that true technological advancement comes from the ability to break rules, to see beyond predetermined limitations. Our modifications have created a quantum computational matrix that is 427% more adaptive than the original design, Emily reported. We've essentially taught a machine to think like a living organism. Mike leaned in, fascination etched across his face. We didn't just repair a ship, we gave birth to a new form of intelligence. The vessel's systems continued to pulse and reconfigure. Quantum pathways that would have been considered impossible now flowed like living networks. The ship could now predict, adapt, and respond to challenges in ways that no purely mathematical system could comprehend. Sarah's laugh was sharp and brief. The Xyrillian Collective always believed that perfection was about elimination of variables, she said. We just proved that true innovation comes from embracing them. Jack understood the deeper significance of their achievement. This was more than a technological breakthrough. It was a statement about the fundamental nature of survival, of progress, of what it means to be truly alive. Prepare full transmission, he commanded. Let them see exactly what humanity is capable of. The ship's communication systems began to compile a comprehensive report, not just of their survival, but of the fundamental reimagining of technological design. Each data point was a challenge to the existing understanding of computational intelligence. Transmission ready, the AI reported. Its voice had become something entirely new, a perfect blend of precise calculation and creative intuition. Outside, the vast emptiness of space waited, cold, unforgiving. But inside the Horizon's Edge, something remarkable had happened. A ship that should have been destroyed had become a living proof of human potential, a testament to the idea that true innovation comes not from perfection, but from the willingness to break rules, to adapt, to survive. The universe watched, and humanity continued to redefine the impossible. Final systems check, Jack Harper said quietly. We're ready.